Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video I'm going to go over my top 5 drugstore favourites. I did do a kind of part 1 for this video where I went over my top 5 high-end products. So for this one we are taking it to the drugstore and I'm going through my favourite affordable products. Looking at everything I have in front of me here, I don't think I've got a single item that's over £10. By today's standards, £10 is actually quite cheap for drugstore nowadays because things are definitely creeping up in price. Things that were once kind of £6, £7, £8.99 are now pushing £12, £13, £14.99. The likes of L'Oreal and Maybelline especially have sort of crept up there in price. But as I say, everything here I do believe is under £10. Obviously, if I'm wrong, I will correct myself. I do definitely love drugstore makeup. I think if I had the choice of only being able to use drugstore and only being able to ever use high-end, I would pick drugstore. You can get so many great products at the drugstore for a fraction of the price as what you would pay high-end. And because of that lower price point, I'm also more inclined to try more things at the drugstore. I would never kind of go out there and just drop £30, £40 on a new foundation to try or something, but I'd be more inclined to spend the sort of 10 or 15 price range to give something a go. There's just so much out there in the drugstore and it is great, and especially for being at an affordable price point. As I say, even though some of the prices are creeping up there a little bit. So let's get started with my first item. This is the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Foundation. This is one that hasn't been in my collection the longest amount of time, but I did quickly fall in love with it, and I've probably been using it for the last 2 months solid at this point, and I do really enjoy using it. I did try the Conceal and Define foundation, which was good, but it just wasn't a favourite. It didn't work on all parts of my face, especially my forehead, whereas I find that this one does. It is a really nice natural looking foundation, which is what my preference is. With it being a hydrating foundation, I did worry that it might look slightly dewy, which I'm not a massive fan of. I do like the kind of natural matte look, but I don't like the dryness of matte foundations. So I say with it having hydration in it, I did think it would be more dewy than it is, but it is just such a nice finish. I love that this one comes with a pump, sorry, excuse how dirty it is, as opposed to the big huge doe foot applicator that was in the Conceal and Define foundation. I definitely prefer a pump on my foundations. You can kind of measure how much you're using and there's less waste. My average use of this is probably 1 full pump, which does do the majority of my face, and then I will just kind of go in with a half a pump just to finish everything off and kind of blend it down my neck and things. I have this in the shade F4, which I think is my perfect most of the year shade, but it is a little bit too dark for this time of year. I do think I maybe need to get an F3 for the winter months, but because I love it so much and I think it's only £9, next time I make a purchase on Superdrug, I probably am just going to get an F3. I have a problem with a lot of foundations that I do get a kind of build up of product or cakiness around my hairline, and also they break up on my nose quite easily. I don't have an issue with this one. I've tried it both with and without primer, and both times it never gives me the dryness on my forehead and it very rarely breaks up on my nose. I did wear this recently for a really long day. I think it was from about 7 AM to about 11:30 at night. And when it came to the point of 11:30 at night, it had only just started breaking up on my nose slightly and a kind of around here. But for that amount of wear time, I'm perfectly happy with that. I don't know whether it had been a different story if I'd possibly forgotten to apply primer that day. But on days when I have applied it without primer, it still holds up pretty well. So I do highly recommend this foundation. Then onto a concealer. I was always going to include a concealer in this because I do have quite a few favourites. I was originally leaning towards the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer, but I chose the Colourpop No Filter Concealer. I've been using this one more recently than the Catrice one, and in my last Everyday Makeup Drawer video, I was actually going to switch this one out for the Catrice one, but because I was enjoying using it so much, I've just carried on with this. The reason I think this one pips it slightly more than the Catrice one is that I can use this one under my eyes. The Catrice one I find I can only use to spot conceal and kind of cover any redness or things like that because it does crease quite easily under my eyes, whereas I don't have an issue with this one. This isn't 100% the best shade match for applying under my eyes, but when it's blended out it works fine enough for that. I do predominantly use it for spot concealing and sort of red correction anyway, but I am in the shade Light 16. I did actually buy this in store when I was in either America or Canada a few months ago. I think if I would have purchased it online, I probably would have gone for this shade anyway, which is good. But it's a concealer that I would be tempted to try a different shade in, so I could potentially use it under my eyes. Even though I do love the concealer that I use under my eyes, it is obviously high end, being the YSL Touche Éclat concealer. It is a high-end concealer, so if I could save money and use this, that'd be great, because I think this is like a quarter of the price. Even though I don't think Colourpop is technically classed as a drugstore brand, I think it's in the kind of affordable bracket. Because this is only $6 or $7, I felt like I could justify putting it in this video. So I'm going to tag it as a drugstore product, but I highly recommend it. As you can see, I've not got an awful lot of product left, so I'm going to have to purchase another one soon. And say I might try a different shade just to see if I can use it all over my face and under my eyes especially. But it is just a really nice concealer. I don't find that it is drying in any way, which I've come across with some concealers in the past. It is quite hydrating. It doesn't crease under my eyes. It conceals redness really well, and it's a great long wearing formula. I don't find that it breaks apart throughout the course of the day or anything like that. And it also doesn't overly matter if I set this concealer, again referencing under my eyes. But highly recommend this, and if you are looking for a new concealer and do have access to Colourpop, it might be worth the kind of $6 to see what it's like. Speaking of setting the under eyes, my next product is the e.l.f. Under Eye HD Setting Powder. This is definitely a staple in my everyday makeup drawer. I did originally only ever use this to set my YSL Touche Éclat concealer, but as I say, I have branched out into trying different concealers under my eyes, and every single one this works great with. Okay, if it is an overly creasing concealer, it doesn't work wonders in that respect, but if it didn't apply this, the concealer would look a lot worse. So it is really good at that. I think this retails for about £5, but I always seem to get it when it's on sale. I think this specific pot I paid £2.50 for. I can't remember how long exactly I had the last pot of this open. This is one that I've only opened in the last couple of weeks, but I do believe the other pot that I had, I don't know if it was quite a year, but I definitely had it open for a good 6 months or more. A little of this does go a long way. You don't need a lot at all, which is obviously why it's such a small pot. But I do find that I can just put one dip of the finger and it'll do both under eyes, which is great. And it just gives me that little extra bit of coverage to go with the concealer and just kind of smooths everything out and makes it look that little bit more flawless. So I do highly recommend this. Would say for £5, definitely go and give it a go. Then we have a mascara. I did definitely want to put a mascara in this video because there are so many amazing drugstore mascaras out there. The first brand that always springs to mind when you mention drugstore mascara is usually Essence. They have so many great mascaras, and I was actually torn between the few I have in my collection. The one I decided to go for is the Lashes of the Day Volume Mascara. Close second and third were the Green Lash Princess and also the one with the really long name, the 18-hour lash extension with lash fibres or whatever it is. So I was torn between those three, but I think this is the one I probably reach for more. So if I had the three mascaras in front of me and it was kind of a daily basis where I didn't need a massive dramatic lash, this is definitely the one I would go for. It gives me just a nice amount of everything. It's definitely an all-rounder. It's nice and black, so it really darkens the lashes. It gives me just a nice amount of volume without going into kind of clumpy territory. And it also gives me just that nice amount of length. Not so much that when I open my eyes I can feel my eyelashes up here, but just a nice amount of length that you can still see the eyelashes, especially if you have like a kind of brighter eyeshadow look on. If I am looking for something overly dramatic, I do tend to go more for Lash Princess. But say for me, my makeup is more of a daily basis than on a night out, which is something I do say once a month or something, if that. I like to go for the kind of everyday, so this is definitely the mascara that I would pick. If I had to get rid of all of my mascaras and just have one, it would be this one. So I do really recommend this, and I think it's about £3 something, which is just insane. I used to have to go to a certain shop in the UK to get my Essence products, being Wilkinson's, and they did actually close the store that was local to me, which then meant I struggled a bit to get hold of Essence products for a while. but now there are a few websites that I use that stock the brands, such as Feel Unique, and I think also Just The Look now stock them too. So it's great that I can get hold of the brand much more easily than I ever could, and it does make me want to try even more of their mascaras, which I did do a long time ago actually. One of my first videos on my channel was actually a review of about 6 or 7 different Essence mascaras that I tried. This was before I'd even tried this one, but when I was picking this out to do this video, I actually went and looked back at that video just out of curiosity to how well it had done at the time. And people have obviously been continuously watching that since I put it up probably 2 years ago at this point, because it's got a good few hundred views on there, which surprised me because those older videos don't have many views in them at all, because it was when my channel was kind of first starting out. But people must obviously be searching for Essence mascaras. Possibly for one of my videos early next year, I might do a kind of recap, because they do have a lot more mascaras that they've brought out since, and I might kind of go through, review a few more and do an updated Essence mascara review kind of thing, if that'd be something you'd be interested in. But out of the ones I've tried, this is definitely my favourite. Then the final product we have is a highlighter. I was really torn whether to put this in or not. I was kind of torn between this and a lip product, but because I like so many drugstore lip products on the same level as each other, I couldn't pick a specific formula. So I decided to save standing there for another half an hour and pick a highlighter instead. This is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow highlighter. This one is in the shade Precious Petals, but I do also have the shade Blossom Glow. I think I prefer this shade out of the two of them because this is more neutral than that one. That one is a kind of whitey pink highlighter, whereas this is a more kind of peachy gold highlighter. This isn't my kind of everyday highlighter. This is the one I go for when I want a bit more of a glow. Definitely when I'm going on a night out or something, which I know I said was a kind of rare occurrence, but there are definitely days when I do want to feel a bit more kind of glam. I will just throw this on, and even if I don't go for much makeup all over the rest of my face, I put this on and it just gives me that glow and that little bit more confidence. So I think that's probably why I did pick this one, because even though when I apply lipstick that does give me a bit of confidence, having this highlighter on is like a different level of confidence. Is that a load of rubbish? So I do have a kind of soft spot for this because it just makes me feel good. Also, I have a lot of lip products and it was going to take me a while to make the decision. I've had this highlighter a decent amount of time now and I'm still barely scratching the surface on this. I don't know what it is with highlighters just lasting forever, because it's not as if I don't use this a lot, but I've just barely made any dent in it whatsoever. Not necessarily a bad thing. I would highly recommend it for the amount of pigment that you get, and I've tried higher end highlighters and this definitely outperforms because it lasts throughout the course of the day as well, and it doesn't shift across your face, which again, I've tried high end ones and I found that I do have bits of glitter down my face by the end of the day, whereas this one doesn't budge, which is great. So that is it for my top 5 drugstore products. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks.